Hello Internet. As you can see, I'm not in a normal location that I normally do these reviews, mostly because this review was kind of unexpected. And as you can also see, I'm also not alone.
Howdy.
For once, I'm actually able to get my guest in frame with me in frame at the same time.
Quite an accomplishment, I guess.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my good friend Michael isn't here to shoot this for us, but, well, we've managed to make do with a concrete cube and probably the pine trees if it's sentient.
I hope it's framing the picture correctly.
Yeah.
We'll make sure it doesn't come over the barrier there.
Yeah. And if all else fails, we can just call Mark Wahlberg.
Yes, we'll do that.
But anyway, this is Shad. I have no idea how to pronounce his last name.
Engkilterra.
He's a fellow reporter at the Globe and at a few other websites.
Examiner.com, Penguin8.com, I don't know, a couple other places.
And we just got out of the press special screening of This Is the End, starring James Franco, Jay Baruchel,
Jonah Hill.
Whoever the big black guy was.
Robinson.
Yeah, Craig Robinson, that was his name. As well as Danny McBride, I always forget his name.
And Emma Watson.
And Emma Watson, of course, as she's shown in the trailer. As well as various other cameo guests who were featured prominently.
Rihanna.
Yeah, Rihanna, Michael Cera. Basically, it was kind of a who's who of Hollywood here. Going into this film, I, kind of had fairly low expectations because I'm not a big fan of Seth Rogen, to be honest.
I have to agree. I wouldn't say fairly. I had really low expectations because I generally don't enjoy rated R comedies, and I generally don't like the rated R comedies like Hangover and
and Superbad and stuff like Hangover, Superbad.
Anything drug related is really not my thing.
Yeah, which granted there is a lot of it in this film. Whoa.
So yes, there is. But you know what? It was okay.
Yeah, because that's the first thing I noticed. The film had a great deal of shock humor involved. That was kind of a big essence of its comedy.
Yeah, although for me I think this is probably the best apocalypse film I've seen in 5 years.
Yeah, and it's really only the first major apocalypse film I've seen. Well, I've only seen like bits and pieces of other ones, but it's kind of a case where I could tell what they were satirizing with this film.
Right. You knew the pieces that were going in, you kind of had an idea of the culture, and the best part was they all played themselves.
Yep.
Or at least a version of themselves.
But you can probably tell they were kind of drawing from life, at least to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're going to go in with a character, and it's actually based on the short film.
Yeah, Seth and Jay versus the Apocalypse.
Right, so it's...
Which I didn't know that. I thought it was kind of an original thing, but then again, a lot of short films... look at Evil Dead. It was based on a short film that they literally shot in a trailer out in the woods, so it's probably the same case.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I think it's probably Seth and Jay kind of hanging out one day and being like, we should make a film.
And that really came across with the acting. The deliveries felt pretty natural when it came to their performances, for the most part.
Yeah, so I noticed in the very beginning, he meets up with Jay in the airport, and he uses, I believe the word is man, 3 times in the same sentence, which you usually don't hear in film, but when you're hanging with your bud, you probably say it a lot. Or you have another word that you use that's your word that you tend to use more often than just once in a sentence.
People have their the way they talk to it, and that was something that really came across with how these actors interacted with each other, particularly with Seth and Jay.
Yes, and I think Jay and Jonah actually, even though they played it differently here, are probably good friends too. It seemed like there was a little more going on there than what they let on. So
yeah, and again, it's kind of interesting. You can tell when people who are actually good friends with each other are in a scene, even when they're supposed to be really mad at each other. You can tell that they really there's that extra layer they put into their performance. It's the same thing you see in The Great Gatsby with Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio because they're friends in real life.
I think they call it chemistry.
Yeah, chemistry, that's the word I'm looking for.
And that's what they all have. They've got some sort of friendship or something going on, so they're good.
The delivery felt natural. When there's good chemistry, everything kind of flows naturally.
And I have to say that I really expected this to be dumb, and in actuality, it ended up being I picture the apocalypse with far more drugs than I would expect, but still it's that's the idea that everybody should have the apocalypse. That's my idea of how this is all going to end.
The stuff you saw in the trailer is as clean as it gets.
Yeah, so this is not a Mormon-friendly film.
No, it is not.
It's not appropriate for children under the age of Gosh,
21.
21 even. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like even 18 is pushing it. So
yeah, you can die for your country at 18. You can vote at 18. I don't know if this film's appropriate for you though.
I mean, if you got the money, and are willing to spend it, that's your business.
and actually, I think this film is worth. I would go. It's worth at least going during the discount hours.
Yeah, matinee. It's definitely good for matinee. Definitely a good film like to see with your friends.
You do want to see with somebody who has a sense of humor and who you feel comfortable enough that it would not be awkward.
Indeed. That I've been in that situation myself once or twice, or 7.
Yes, not a date film if you don't know the person very well.
Unless the person you're on a date with is into those kind of comedies, like if they like the Seth Rogen films, that they like
Hangover,
like Hangover, Superbad. If they like those kind of comedies, they would probably enjoy this. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, I may not like those comedies, but even I found some stuff that I found kind of funny, even after I got past the initial shock. One thing that I liked about this, because if you look at most comedies that are like usually of lesser quality, they usually have the case where they have jokes at the beginning, jokes at the end, but then during the middle they go through a really dramatic arc. This film at least managed to keep the jokes kind of managed to keep the comedy in a consistent flow and at a consistent pace.
Yeah, and I think there were a couple times where I thought, wow, that's random. But again, we're talking about the apocalypse and random things are going to happen. So you think, oh, okay, we're going to go through a little bit of expose. They're going to build on the relationship. And all of a sudden, bam, something happens. And they're like, whoa, we're back to, everything's breaking loose.
Oh yeah, especially with something with the apocalypse, which is something that not everyone agrees on would happen.
Yeah, I guess not everybody agrees that the apocalypse will happen. I mean,
Well, I
think everybody agrees the end of the Earth will happen.
I just mean the specifics of the apocalypse,
Right.
more what I was getting at, because there are people who have this is in 2013, so if you believed in the 2012 scare and feel kind of stupid for believing it, well...
Gee, I remember back in 2000 when we had the whole Y2K
Oh yeah, the Y2K thing.
I was in Africa at the time, so I didn't even care, you know?
But yeah, point being, it's a multifaceted satire. I mean, it satirizes a lot of the apocalypse films and even some of the preachy films like Left Behind. It also satirizes, even to a lesser extent, like a lot of the survival films, like some of the post-apocalyptic and even to a lesser extent like the zombie survival sort of aspect. Like it's a satire of survival. That's what I would call it.
Yeah, so I would just say, hey, if you're looking for something funny, it actually is more intelligent than you would expect. Don't get your hopes up super high, but come on, it's got Emma Watson in it, and even her 7 minutes is great. I would say go see it. It's more intelligent than I would give it credit for by just seeing the trailers.
Indeed. You pretty much summarized it right there. So again, if you're a fan of the Seth Rogen comedies, if you're a fan of that kind of dynamic they have, and if you like James Franco, then I definitely recommend it. So yeah, on my personal scale, I'm gonna give this film a 5 out of 5, because I couldn't find really any major faults with it.
That's much more than I would give it out of my personal scale, but I'm a little bit harsher judge of movies. I would probably give this a 3.5 out of 5, which is pretty good for me.
And that's it for this special episode of Ronnie's Reviews. Tune in Friday for my review of Man of Steel, and I'm Ronnie.
Thank you.
And thanks to Shad for coming on the show today. Or tonight.
We'll see you later, Internet.
Yep. See you then.